In a quiet laboratory, an archaeologist scans fragments of ancient marble. The pieces are incomplete, worn by centuries. She enters measurements into a system that begins assembling what her eyes cannot see. Across the building, historians upload texts, descriptions of streets that no longer exist, temples reduced to foundation stones, forums buried under modern cities. The machine processes silently, learning patterns from ruins. Within weeks, buildings that vanished 2,000 years ago begin appearing on screens. Whole neighborhoods materialize where only emptiness existed. The reconstructions spread through the database, insulally stacked 6 stories high, temples with columns that no one alive has ever seen standing. Markets where the sounds and movements of ancient crowds start to take shape. Teams gather in conference rooms, staring at renderings that look too real to be guesses. Scholars begin arguing about details no one can prove. The machine keeps building, keeps filling in gaps, keeps resurrecting a city from fragments and algorithms. This is the $500 million reconstruction of Rome in 100 AD. The project represents the most ambitious historical reconstruction ever attempted. An international consortium of universities, museums, technology companies and governments committed $500 million to a singular vision, using artificial intelligence to resurrect ancient Rome exactly as it appeared during the reign of Emperor Trajan. The goal was not simply visualization, but scientific reconstruction. Every surviving artifact, every ancient text, every archaeological survey would feed neural networks designed to rebuild the city down to individual buildings, streets, and daily routines. Teams of historians, archaeologists, engineers, and AI specialists converged with a promise that had never been made before: to create a navigable, living model of the ancient world grounded entirely in evidence. The scale was unprecedented. The risk was immense. No one had ever asked a machine to reconstruct something so completely lost. Rome in 100 AD was the beating heart of human civilization. Over 1 million people crowded its streets, making it the largest city on Earth. Marble temples gleamed across 7 hills. The Colosseum hosted spectacles that drew tens of thousands. Senators debated in the Forum Romanum, while merchants from Africa, Asia, and Northern Europe traded silk, spices, grain, and slaves in markets that never closed. The city functioned through engineering marvels. 11 aqueducts delivered millions of gallons of fresh water daily, a sewage system drained waste into the Tiber, and roads paved with volcanic stone connected every district. Romans lived stacked in insulae, apartment buildings that rose 6 or 7 stories, while wealthy patricians occupied sprawling villas with private baths and gardens. Slaves made up nearly a third of the population, performing labor that sustained the entire system. Religious ceremonies filled the calendar. Entertainment ranged from theater to brutal gladiatorial combat. This was a society of staggering complexity, inequality, and ambition. But nearly 2,000 years of earthquakes, fires, wars, and construction erased most of it. What remained were fragments: columns, foundation stones, scattered ruins, incomplete descriptions in ancient texts. Scholars could study Rome, but no one could see it whole. No one could walk its streets or understand how the pieces fit together. Until now. The reconstruction began with data. Neural networks required massive input to learn Roman architectural principles, construction techniques, and urban planning logic. The team fed the AI centuries of archaeological excavations, laser scans of surviving structures, measurements of ruins, chemical analyses of building materials. They digitized thousands of ancient texts. Pliny the Elder described the city's neighborhoods. Martial wrote about daily life in the streets. Juvenal complained about traffic and noise. Vitruvius explained architectural theory. The AI processed it all, learning to recognize patterns. It studied how Romans used concrete, how they shaped arches, how they arranged columns. It analyzed the dimensions of temples, the layouts of forums, the construction of aqueducts. Then came the hard part, extrapolation. The AI had to fill gaps where evidence disappeared. It had to decide what a missing temple facade looked like, what materials covered a vanished building, what color painted a lost fresco. The system generated probabilities based on surviving examples, but every decision became a negotiation between algorithmic inference and human scholarly judgment. Historians reviewed the outputs, debating details. When ancient sources conflicted, whose description should take precedence? When archaeological evidence was ambiguous, should the system favor aesthetic coherence or admit uncertainty? The process revealed a fundamental tension. Reconstruction required confidence, but honesty demanded acknowledgement of doubt. The turning point came when the team decided to reconstruct not just architecture but human activity. The AI would simulate daily life, populating the city with algorithmically generated Romans conducting business, worshipping in temples, attending spectacles, navigating streets. This decision transformed everything. The project became exponentially more complex and infinitely more controversial. The simulation required modeling traffic patterns based on ancient complaints about congestion. It required understanding market operations, religious ceremonies, sanitation routines, and social hierarchies. The AI had to generate citizens whose clothing, activities, and demographics reflected historical records. It had to show slavery, the backbone of Roman economy, but a reality that could not be sanitized. It had to depict the brutal entertainments of the amphitheater, the stark wealth inequality between patrician villas and crowded insulae, the presence of prostitution and violence alongside cultural achievement. The team faced a moral question that had no easy answer. Should an accurate reconstruction show ancient Rome as it truly was, including aspects modern audiences find disturbing, or should it be edited for contemporary sensibilities? Some team members argued for selective presentation. Others insisted that sanitizing history was a form of dishonesty. The decision was made to prioritize accuracy. The reconstruction would not glorify Rome, but it would not lie about it either. The choice attracted both praise and fury. The controversy intensified as the reconstruction neared completion. Critics accused the project of creating historical fiction disguised as scholarship. They argued that the AI's confidence misled the public into believing we know more about ancient Rome than we actually do. When evidence was thin, the system still generated detailed outputs, and viewers couldn't always distinguish between certainty and educated guessing. Several prominent historians withdrew from the project, publishing papers questioning its methodology. They pointed to specific reconstructions where the AI had chosen one interpretation over equally valid alternatives without indicating the choice was probabilistic. The team responded by adding transparency layers, metadata showing confidence levels for each reconstruction element, color coding to indicate evidence quality, explanatory notes describing competing scholarly interpretations. But the damage was done. The project became polarizing. Meanwhile, technical challenges multiplied. Rendering millions of architectural details in real time pushed computational limits. Simulating accurate lighting required modeling how ancient Rome's buildings would have cast shadows at different times of day. Populating the city with thousands of moving figures without sacrificing historical accuracy demanded constant refinement. The AI had to learn how materials weathered, how wood decayed, how ancient concrete behaved over time. Every texture, every surface required deliberate design choices. The team worked 18-hour days, reviewing outputs, correcting errors, debating details that most viewers would never consciously notice, but that determined whether the reconstruction felt authentic or artificial. The final reconstruction revealed Rome in 100 AD with an immediacy no previous generation had experienced. Viewers could navigate the Forum Romanum during a religious procession, walk through the Subura district as merchants shouted prices, stand inside the Colosseum as 40,000 spectators watched gladiatorial combat. The AI had processed terabytes of data, resolved thousands of scholarly disputes through probabilistic analysis, and generated a vision of ancient Rome that balanced evidence with educated inference. Museums worldwide integrated the reconstruction into exhibits. Educational institutions used it to teach Roman history. Millions of people experienced the ancient city with a clarity previously impossible. But the project's success raised questions as profound as its technical achievements. Had the team recreated Rome as it was, or had they created a new Rome? A 21st century interpretation shaped by contemporary data science, algorithmic biases, and modern assumptions. The Reconstruction revealed as much about our era as about antiquity. Our faith in technology, our hunger for certainty, our desire to possess the past. The AI demonstrated that machines could process evidence at scales impossible for individual humans, synthesizing information in ways that opened new research possibilities. Yet it also exposed irreducible gaps in our knowledge and the interpretive nature of all historical work. Rome in 100 AD now exists again, not in stone and flesh, but in data and code. It stands as a monument to what can be recovered and what remains forever lost. The Reconstruction transformed historical scholarship, proving that artificial intelligence could become a tool for understanding the past in unprecedented ways. But it also reminded us that resurrection is always partial, always shaped by the present. We build the past with the tools and assumptions of our own time. The machine learned from us, and its outputs reflect not just ancient Rome, but the questions we asked, the priorities we set, and the interpretations we chose. Every pixel, every simulated citizen, every reconstructed column carries the invisible fingerprints of the people who built the system. The $500 million investment didn't just reconstruct a city, it held up a mirror to our relationship with history itself, forcing us to confront how we know what we claim to know and what it means to bring the dead back to life through algorithms.